What is up, everybody? This is JP, your online personal trainer. First things first, I know I haven't had a video up in about, I would say, like almost 2 weeks going on. I got sick right before Thanksgiving break, and I took a few days off from working out. And usually after a few months, I take about a week off from working out just to let my body recover. But on top of getting sick, I also had a trip planned back to go to California to see some family. I did that, and again during that week I wasn't going to record, so I'm finally back, and I'm going to get back into the normal routine of doing my 2 videos each week, or try to, unless I get a busy schedule, but right back on to 2 videos per week. This video is going to be about partial range of motion, like using partial range of motion for certain exercises, and whether or not that is pointless. I watched a couple videos in the last few weeks from different YouTubers and a few of the big fitness YouTubers that are out. If you watch a lot of the fitness channels on YouTube, you probably have seen these videos. One of them has said that, and I'm not going to throw out any names, but one person has said that that they don't like partial range of motion and that it's pointless. But then another YouTuber did a video saying partial range of motion does matter. And I'm going to talk about that today and give you my opinion. And just to throw it out there, yes, I do believe that partial range of motion does have its role in exercise, and I'll explain why. It's easy to sit there and say partial range of motion exercises are pointless, or they're garbage, or they're trash, or whatever they are, because you're not getting the benefit of doing a full range of motion. For example, we'll take a bicep curl. You've heard of the exercise 21s. Most people who work have heard of what 21s. If you don't know what 21s are, I'll explain it real quick. A 21 is where you go 7 reps the bottom half range of motion. You're just doing the bottom half range of motion, like for a curl. 7 reps the top half range of motion, and then 7 reps full range of motion. So basically, you're breaking up the range of motion into 3 different segments: bottom half, top half, and full reps. So those are called 21s. They're for bicep curls. So in regards to that exercise, it's easy to sit there and say there's no point of only doing the bottom half. Why not do the full range of motion? Because technically, yes, when you are moving, let's just say versus the bottom half versus a full rep, the bottom half, you're moving the weight a shorter distance, so technically less work is being done. But at the same time, there's other benefits to that as well, which I'm going to talk about right now. But yes, it's easy to sit there and say, well, you're moving the weight a shorter distance, so it's easier, when that's not necessarily true at all. And the reasons why is, one, there are increased difficulties at a certain range of motion. For example, I just compared the bottom half of a bicep curl to the full bicep curl. Well, let's compare the top half of a bicep curl versus a full. When you go a full bicep curl range of motion all the way to the bottom, then all the way to the top, at the bottom, and let's just say you go all the way to the bottom, even if you don't pause there, let's just say you're someone who goes right to the bottom. Well, once you get to the bottom, you come right back up. There is still a split second where you are at the bottom. Technically, when you are at the bottom range of motion, there's no resistance anywhere on your bicep. Your arm is almost completely perpendicular. It's completely parallel with gravity. Think about it. If you put a dumbbell in your hand, lock out your elbow so you get a full range of motion and hold it. At the bottom, there is no stress on your bicep. So yes, you are going a full range of motion, but with full range of motion, you get the benefit of moving the weight a further distance, so there's more work being done, because work is force times displacement. But again, there's that little negative that I just said right there, is you do end up going to the bottom, which again, there's no resistance right there. In comparison to, let's just say, the top half range of motion, yes, you are not moving the weight the same amount of distance, so there is less work being done. But think about it. At the top, even if you flex your arm at the top, your forearm is still never parallel with gravity. It's getting close, but it's not parallel with gravity. And then right here, when you go halfway down, this is where it's hardest during the movement, because your forearm is perpendicular with gravity. So it's going to be hardest during that portion of the range of motion in a bicep curl, because the lever is longest at that point. When it gets closer to the joint is when it's going to be easiest. So like for example, that's what I said at the bottom. You could hold this here all day if you were at the bottom. When you're at the top, it's getting close to being parallel with gravity. So yes, it is easier than when it's completely 90 degrees or perpendicular with gravity, but it's still not quite there. So basically, during the top half range of motion, there is no part of the movement where you're completely parallel with gravity. So it's going to be some type of tension or resistance is going to be on the muscle the entire time. So if when comparing those two, there's a benefit and a negative of both. So yes, just because you're going all the way down doesn't necessarily mean that it's better. Again, if you just do the top half, you're keeping tension on the muscle. There's no point during that movement where there is not some type of a resistance being placed on the biceps. At the bottom, when you go to full range, there's really no resistance on the bicep because your forearm is now parallel with gravity. And the only way to do that is to, guess what, shorten the range of motion. Now, again, I'm not saying one is better than the other, but they both have their pluses and minuses. Number two, you can't really technically hit a full range of motion on that particular muscle with just one exercise. So basically, not on every exercise you're going to be able to hit the full range of motion. Unless you come up with a very creative exercise, on almost any exercises, you're not going to be able to hit the full range of motion for that muscle. You may be confused and say, well, I could just go all the way down. That's full range of motion. That might be full range of motion for that particular movement, but not for the muscle. For example, maximal lengthening of the bicep is behind the body back here. So when you're coming all the way down right here, this isn't technically lengthening the bicep maximally. You can still take it all the way back here. This would be maximally lengthening the bicep. Have you seen, you've probably seen people do a bicep curl, like a bicep curl on a bench, like an incline bench, and they let their hands go behind their body because they're on an incline. Or you see people do drag curls where they come up like this and their elbow goes behind their body. That's getting more maximal lengthening of the bicep. Not so much on drag curls, but on the incline curls, yes, because your arm's getting further behind your body and your biceps getting lengthened more. So that's maximal lengthening of the bicep. Now, maximal contraction of the bicep is up here. It's not just flexed arm with your arm at your side. It's flexed arm with your shoulder flexed. Because people don't think about this, but the bicep does have a small assistance or a small portion of the effort that's being done when you flex your shoulder. So when you flex your shoulder, your bicep does help do that a little bit. So if your bicep does help assist on flexing the shoulder, and also is the prime mover when you flex your arm, you want to flex your shoulder and then flex your arm at the same time to get maximal contraction of the bicep. So if maximal contraction of the biceps up here and maximal lengthening is back here, what type of curl is going to be able to do both of those in the exact same exercise? Not many. So for someone to sit there and say, oh, you need to go full range of motion, you really can't take the muscle through a full range of motion in one exercise. So knowing that right there, you're going to have to do multiple exercises to get that muscle into different ranges of the motion. Like, for example, you could do a cable curl for the bicep up here. If you do cable curls, you could do cable curl like that. Or, like I told you earlier, you can do an incline curl to get your arm behind the body. Those two different exercises kind of hit the bicep at different ranges of motion. So yes, so it's not necessarily one exercise is going to hit it through the full range of motion. And number three, full range of motion. Like, if you always want full range of motion, and again, I'll go back to the original example, which is 21s. If you always want full range of motion bicep curls, you always went down. Maybe you did hammer curls one day, you did reverse curls one day, you did barbell curls, you did dumbbell curls, but you always all the way down. Body can kind of catch on to that if you keep doing that all the time. And by catch on, I mean it's going to get used to doing that full range of motion and you're going to plateau. So again, in regards to 21s, I believe breaking up the range of motion as in 21s, where you do 7 top half, 7 bottom half, and 7 full, 1 will help prevent plateaus. 2, you're going to get the slightly different difficulties at certain ranges of motion. And then 3, sometimes you're not going to be able to hit a full range of motion in one exercise anyway. So saying that you have to do a full range of motion every single rep of every single exercise and breaking up the range of motion to, again, break plateaus, which is good, or make it difficult changing the ranges of motion, saying that's pointless is completely wrong. So again, I'm a big advocate of breaking up the range of motion, not all the time. If you're always cutting the range of motion short, that is even worse than never doing partial range of motions. But again, you got to be able to do both. It's being able to do both, again, breaking plateaus, being able to take the muscle through a full range of motion, as in the incline curl and cable curl example, and then increase difficulties, different ranges of motion, like doing the top half versus full. You have a plus and a minus of both. If you like these types of videos, please like, share, and subscribe. Again, check out all my other social medias. I got a Facebook, Instagram, a Twitter, and then obviously you already know about my YouTube. If you have any questions, comments, anything like that, you want to say any criticisms, anything like that, please post them down below. But until next time, see ya.